Okay, ready when you are.
Okay, hi everyone, this is Town Council Youth Council. I'm just going to check the agenda. So we have a new member who's Isabel Lambourne. Would she like to introduce herself to the council? If she's here.
Hi. Yep. I'm Izzy. I'm 16. I go to Shottery. Yeah, that's kind of me.
Yep. Thank you, Izzy. Do we have any apologies for absences?
Yes, we have apologies from Amelia.
Declarations for interest of item of agenda. So I'm not really sure what that means. So, but Jill, would you like to explain to me, please?
Yeah, that's fine. Just does anyone have, you are bringing forward an item to the agenda yourself, so you can declare an interest in the item you're bringing, and Saul can declare an interest to the item he's bringing.
Okay. So Saul said he wanted to talk about his music interests. Am I correct there? Okay,
Yes.
good. So Saul was,
And you just need to declare your interest.
yeah, so did you want to talk about your interests, Saul?
My interest is that people in Stratford, especially kids with who have an instrument to play, don't really have anything to do, and I thought that maybe we could talk about having a discussion about how we can, boost that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas so far of what you've
Sorry, Kerry, he's just declaring his interest now, so we'll get to that bit agenda item later.
Oh, okay. I would also like to talk about gender neutral clothes further on in the call, about different types of clothing and how they could be classed as gender neutral, so people don't feel that they need to choose a side. So that's my interest. Does anyone else have any interests, or is that it?
Yeah, good job.
Okay. Public participation. Do we have any questions from the public?
No one's registered to speak in public participation this evening.
Okay. Approving first draft minutes. Okay, so is held on January 7th. Okay, so it was an hour, or I'm not sure if that's it was something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the minutes, Kerry, if you'd just like to, if everybody's happy with the minutes, have read through it.
Yeah.
They just need to.
I'm just going to launch a poll, which makes it easier for me to see. So if you're happy to approve the minutes, then please vote yes, or no if you're not happy, or abstain if you wish not to vote. Please only youth members vote, please. Thank you. You should start seeing a poll on your screen.
Okay. Thank you.
There's 3. Got to count how many youth members we've got. 1, 2, 3. Waiting. Yep, that's everyone. So that's unanimously. Yes.
Cool. Thank you. Receive feedback from Stratford-upon-Avon District Council Forum. So, do we have any feedback?
Alfie.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so we do have some feedback. So we're pleased to announce that since the adoption of our new constitution, we've now got 2 more executive committee positions, and they're responsible for kind of the day-to-day running of the forum. So they now have 2 co-chairs and a secretary, and 2 new executive officers who don't have a portfolio, but can kind of specialize in something. So that's all good. And then in terms of projects, we're continuing with our careers project, but that has been delayed a little bit. And it's been suggested that we kind of maybe survey some young people as to what they would like in terms of careers, and perhaps that's something that Youth Town Council and Youth Forum could collaborate on to get the widest possible thing of young people. And in addition to that, we've also had a meeting with Rachel about a mental health project which we'll be taking part in. So that will be after half term, a week-long social media project looking at helping young people to cope, things like stress, anxiety, and just making everyone feel a lot more comfortable in the current situation. And then aside from that, our other project is endometriosis, which is still ongoing, just in the planning stages, really. So I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, then yeah, please say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfie. That was well said. Does anyone have any questions?
Alfie, may I just ask a question through you, Chair? Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. What sort of involvement would you like to just poll the members here? Would you like them to take it to their classes and friends and things to spread the word? What sort of involvement would you like from the Youth Council?
I mean, ideally, as it looks like we're going to be doing a survey, basically just the more people we can get, the better. So we're just planning it at the moment. But once you've done it, if perhaps members of Youth Town Council could share it with their friends as well, that would be really good.
171 163. That's the meeting code.
Carrie, you're not on mute. Oh, that's good. So will you be sharing that? It's okay, Carrie, don't worry. Will you be sharing that, Alfie, on social media once it's up, or just emailing your members? You want it sort of sent out?
Yeah, we'll be putting that on our social media, and I think because we're doing it alongside, so probably partner organisations might put that on as well, and we're going to try and send it to schools. So once you've done that, if I can send that to the Youth Town Council, then it would be really appreciated if we could have a chat about sort of collaboration on just the logistics of getting that survey to everyone, just because the more people that answer it, the better, and the better content and interviews we can have then.
Sounds great. Thank you. Back to you, Carrie. You're on mute.
Okay, so thank you, Alfie.
Just say you got to log in.
I've got to log in again, as I've got to log into my mum's laptop, but I will be back in literally 2 seconds. Okay.
That's just to accept.
You haven't even left us. You're there.
I'm still here. Okay. Good. So
I'm just going to remove the other version of you, if that's okay. So that it's not on the speaker. Very good.
Okay.
You're there.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You're doing a fantastic job.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've had that. Just waiting for the agenda to load. Right, so we were on approve minutes, then receive feedback. Okay, to receive presentation from LGBTQ communities from Warwickshire Pride's chair.
There we go. I've taken myself off mute before starting to speak. That's an achievement. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me and welcoming me this evening. So my name's Dan. I'm from Warwickshire Pride. We're a local charity working all across the county, supporting lesbian, gay, bisexual and trans people, and doing quite a bit of work in Stratford, or at least we were until the first lockdown started and everything that's happened since. But we're still supporting people in the area. So I identify as a gay, cis man. My pronouns are he and him, as it says on the screen there. So Warwickshire Pride has been going for about 10 years now. We're in our 10th year, actually. It started as an LGBT plus youth group, and that's all it was ever going to be in Warwick on a Thursday evening. But it kind of snowballed from there, really. As more young people came to our youth group, we started having young people from other parts of Warwickshire saying they would really benefit from a group and support. And then we had adults getting in touch as well. So we've added lots and lots of services over the years, and now do lots and lots of stuff: coffee mornings, a trans social group, learning disabilities group, all sorts of stuff. And then we have the big Warwickshire Pride Festival every summer in Leamington. It was online last year for obvious reasons, and probably will be again this year, but we're fortunate that technology is allowing us to do something. So at the moment, everything is running online, actually, including our youth group that we were running at Foundation House on a Saturday afternoon. We've kind of merged all our youth groups into one online session at the moment, and that happens on Thursday evenings. It starts at 6 o'clock this evening, actually. And there's a growing number of young people from Stratford accessing the group, actually. And finding that it's somewhere they can just be themselves, relax, meet other LGBT plus people, and just get away from all the bad stuff and negativity, you know, such as bullying at school and parents not accepting them and that kind of thing. So the group's really social, first and foremost. It is all about chilling out, playing games, chatting, doing art, that kind of thing. But sometimes we'll do educational stuff as well, you know, about personal safety, hate crime, drug and alcohol abuse, staying safe online, that kind of thing. But we're very much led by the people who attend the group. We'll always check in with them and ask what they want to happen, and then we'll try and make it happen within reason. You know, like a holiday to Ibiza or whatever, just, you know, it's not going to happen. But, you know, we might be able to go out for ice cream or for pizza or something like that. So I'll come back to Warwickshire Pride and some of the problems and issues that are happening in Stratford at the moment in a short while. But I just wanted to talk a bit about LGBT plus History Month, which is happening right now during February in the UK. It's been going for about 15, 16 years now. I think 2005 was the first one. And it's all about highlighting the history of LGBT plus people and communities in the UK, but also about celebrating those communities and increasing the visibility of LGBT plus people. So there's lots happening all around the country, including right here in Warwickshire and even in Stratford, actually. So at Warwickshire Pride, we're doing webinars, we're doing a rerun of the Pride Festival that we did online last year. Next week, we've got a quiz hosted by some drag queens, which will be pretty fab. You know, so all sorts of stuff going on. But actually, there's stuff happening in Stratford as well. Shakespeare's Birthplace Trust on the 17th of February are doing a whole afternoon of LGBT plus content online. And later in the month, I've got a performance called Shakespeare. Shakespeare, I think that's what it's called. So lots happening locally to shine a spotlight on our history, but also to celebrate our communities. You know, it's good to look at the positives as well as the issues and the history as well, I guess. So coming back to Warwickshire Pride and our work and what's happening locally, sadly, Stratford is quite a difficult place to be LGBT plus. And I know that from the experience of supporting people in the town, but also my own experience of things that have happened in Stratford to me. So, for example, a couple of years ago, me and a colleague were running a Warwickshire Pride stall on the market in Robber Street. And eventually we had to pack up and leave because we were just showered with homophobic comments, people pointing, shouting things at us over about a 3-hour period. So we had to leave eventually just to get away from it. I'm aware of trans people in Stratford that are afraid to leave their homes because people shout at them in the street, call them names, even go into their place of work and are quite abusive. So there's all of these problems in the town that really need addressing, really, and that's what we're trying to do with our work at Warwickshire Pride, with our youth group, but also with an adult support group that we were running in Stratford, and we'll go back to as soon as we can. But also, we were in the process of taking on a room at Foundation House that would become our permanent base, which would really help us to increase our work and our impact in Stratford, trying to drag it into the 21st century, get with the times and get more support in place for the LGBT plus community. It's very much needed. But we can't do all of that work alone, of course. There's only so much that we can do. So we really rely on working with other organisations. So mentioning Foundation House again and the Stratford Town Trust, they've been very supportive with funding and other kind of support. There's the Life Space Trust that we're currently having conversations with about how we can put more support in place for young people. So all of that stuff's quite important, a collaborative approach and working together for the benefit of the community. But something else that's important is allies, just normal people who are not LGBT plus themselves, but are really supportive of that community and champion that community. And now more than ever, I think allies are needed. We're living in a time when LGBT plus people are under more attack than they have been for a long time. Although we've got pretty much legal equality, there's still a lot of problems socially and in communities. So allies are really important, and they make a difference. And perhaps you may decide to be an ally to the LGBT plus community yourself. And you can do that by, I guess, using your voice, using your privilege as somebody who isn't LGBT plus to highlight the problems, to celebrate the community, to call out homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, and to try and educate others as well. Because I think ultimately the way to eradicate hate is through education. Whether it's hate against LGBT plus people or towards ethnic minorities or whatever it may be, education is key, and I think we can all play a part in that. So I think I've plugged the youth group as well, haven't I? I've done that. If any of you decided that the youth group actually was for you, then you're welcome to get involved or to tell your friends about it. When things are back to normal, it'll be on a Saturday afternoon at Foundation House, but in the meantime it's Thursday evenings from 6 till 8 online. And what I can do is, I think Jill's got my details actually, and I'm sure she'd be happy to share the information with you. So I'll stop talking for a minute, but thank you for listening, and I just wanted to open it up to questions. Feel free to ask me anything at all.
Thank you, Daniel. That was really nice. Does anyone have any questions? I personally don't. So, Alfie?
Thank you. Yeah. Can I just ask? I know this might seem like a bit of a trivial one, but it's just there's a few different acronyms like LGBT, LGBT plus, LGBTQ, LGBTQ plus. Would you give any advice in terms of people using the one that's kind of the most correct and sensitive, if you like?
Mm-hmm. Do you know what? That's a really good question, actually. And there's so many versions of the acronym. I can understand why it's confusing. We've got LGBT, and then there's a long one, LGBTQQUIAAP2K+, which is, really long, obviously. The most commonly used one is LGBT+. And I think you can't go wrong with that. So it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans. And then the plus includes all of the other identities. but I also believe in people's right to use the acronym that they feel applies to them. Some people like to use the acronym that has their letter in it, and feel that the plus isn't inclusive enough because it's just lumping everybody together. So some people like using that really long one, but you can't go wrong with LGBT plus.
Does anyone else have any questions? Eva?
When you were talking about being heckled and people being unaccepted, what age group are we talking about? Not to be ageist, but it would be interesting because it could be younger generation or older. It's like knowing who to target and who to help accept it.
You know what, when it happened, a lot of people assumed that it was young people doing it, but actually we had a few young people come to our stall and they were just really nice and interested in what we were doing. It was older people, I'd say from mid-30s onwards. Younger people actually seemed all right about it.
Thank you, Danielle. Does anyone else have any questions?
Can I ask a question, Kerry?
Yeah.
Right then. Talking about the youth group, I'm just wondering, you were talking about allies. Are allies welcome at the youth group? Obviously, when you're meeting in person, is that something you would like to encourage?
So what we do is check that with the people who attend. So sometimes they like to bring along friends who are allies, and if everyone else is okay with that, then that's fine. But something that we're looking to put in place actually is a young mentor scheme. So any young person, whatever your identity, is able to come and volunteer at the group and support other young people. And I think that would be really beneficial actually, that people would really get something out of.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. Discuss gender neutral clothing. Okay, so this is a discussion that we had the other day. I had the idea that we could have in stores gender neutral clothing because I don't feel like we should be labeling people as girl and boy or masculine, feminine. I think we should just have like different types of like ways to like aisle clothing, you know what I mean? So I've done a bit of research. Hang on, we got that book. So I've looked at just strictly from Googling for like 5 seconds. I discovered different kind of online shops that do like gender neutral clothing. And as Alfie pointed out to me, that it could be a difficult thing to do with like people from like ages from 12 onwards due to like puberty and fitting and stuff. So I thought we could do it for like girls and boys that are like from ages 8 to 13, around that area. Aidan had the idea that we could label the signs like masculine and feminine instead of boy and girl. So is that a thing that we want to take on as a project, or is that a thing we think, yeah, it's a good idea, but we could do something different? Izzy?
I definitely think increasing this conversation, kind of raising awareness of trans people, of non-binary people, gender neutral people, whatever their identity, is really important. And I definitely think it's something we should be discussing. I think in terms of within stores, that would be something that if we could set up a campaign and it grew, then we could have that discussion. Personally, masculine, feminine, I think it's in a way, it's just another way of defining these things, which not everyone necessarily fits into. So I think it's first and foremost about raising awareness about making sure that nobody feels isolated and that everyone feels like there is a place for them and that whatever they are called. And I think definitely trying to break down these gender norms as much as possible is a really important thing to do. The exact way of doing that, I don't know exactly. But I think just having that conversation, increasing that conversation, including all sorts of people in it, I think is really important for us to do. So, yeah.
Thank you, Izzy. Alfie, then Saul.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm much the same as Izzy on that one, in that I don't really think just changing the labels like that is really much of a solution. But I think one thing that we could look at doing is perhaps in future meetings actually inviting owners of local shops to come and talk about it and kind of explain why they do things the way they do things, so we can see it from different points of view. Would be a good way, if we did want to turn this into a campaign, to kind of get the information we'd need going forwards.
Thank you, Alfie. That's a really good point. I will take that into consideration. Saul?
I think it's a good idea, but I don't think the the clothes companies would think about like doing it, or the shops would think about doing it for children with like ages up from 7, because some people go into puberty much quicker than other people, and that will be a problem, because what happens if you end up going into puberty at 15 and the clothes that you've got are, fitting differently and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Daniel, I actually wanted to ask you about this. What do you think about this?
So, first of all, I think it's a fantastic discussion point, and I think gendered clothing, gendered toys, all that kind of stuff. Although I get it, for many people, particularly LGBT plus people or those who are trans or non-binary, it's really quite damaging. So I think this would actually be a worthwhile campaign and piece of work that you could do, not only involving perhaps local independent shops, but also I know that New Look on the Maybird are really supportive of Pride and have done stuff in store, and they're very supportive of trans people. So it may be worth having a conversation with them, and trying to get at least that local store on board as well. So a big thumbs up for what you're doing.
Thank you. Going back to the question of instead of masculine and feminine, does anyone have any ideas what we could do instead of a masculine and feminine and girls and boys? Because I've looked and see if there's anything like other ways of looking at it, but I found nothing. So does anyone else have any different ideas? Danny?
I don't I don't really know how good this idea is, but I thought I might go for something. Like you could do it by like body types, because obviously like people have tons of different like body
Danny,
types.
sorry, I can't hear you. Do you mind coming a bit closer to the? I can't hear you. You're muffled a little bit.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, good. I was using the wrong microphone again. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I don't know how good the idea is, so like bear with me, but you could like do it by like body types, because some women have like body types that are just naturally closer to like masculine body types, and it might just help everyone. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to articulate this properly, but it's a different way to organize everything, or you could do it by like style or color or just something like that, but something like where people can just go to where they feel most comfortable instead of what they should be going to, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Don't worry about it. Alfie, then Izzy.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at children's, then to be honest, I don't really see any need to kind of split it at all up to say the age of 12 and just have it in ages, to be honest, because if the fit's going to be relatively similar and we're not too really bothered about we just have all the designs together, I wouldn't say it makes a massive difference.
Okay, that's a good point. Izzy?
I think it could be also about like the item of clothing, because I think also it's not just about making sure that children when they're younger don't have to fit these like girl, boy, blue, pink and all of that kind of thing. I think it's also making sure that people who, as they get older, who then realise that they don't fit into the exact thing that society tells them that's what they are, and that what they were born into isn't necessarily who they are, So I think also maybe defining it just by like item of clothing, so you could have skirts, tops and things like that, and there's different sizes, because frankly we all have different body types anyway. So there are women or people born in women's bodies who have completely different body types to any other woman. Like it's different anyway, so I think there's always going to be clothes that don't fit you. So personally I think doing it by just the item of clothing would be the most direct way. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Jill, welcome to you. But Daniel, unfortunately, has to go. So it was nice talking to you, Daniel. Thank you again for that massive presentation. It was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jill.
Yeah, great debate so far. So it's fantastic. One of the things I was thinking, because I think for younger people where potentially they're still going shopping with their parents because they're paying for it, but they don't want to identify necessarily as a girl or a boy, but haven't told their parents, because I think that's one of the last people to know is how they feel is the parents. That to have it all in one area, so that it's like, as you've said, Kerry, so beautifully, that having a boys area, if that person doesn't want to go and shop in the boys area, it's very obvious if they don't go there. Same for obviously the girls. So even if it's just about as you've all said, mixing it up, so that if you're going to it, I want this pair of jeans or this top, but it's not, as you said, labeled boys or girls. And I think trying to make it more of just in one area would be such a good idea. So it's a great idea for a campaign, as Daniel said as well, push forward for this. So well done, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Eva.
When we were talking about categories, I don't think size is maybe the way to go, because I think if you're going into a certain size section, people might feel embarrassed. I think maybe genre is the way to go, like grunge, or not like to label it, but to put them in like, styles that people have these days might be a better option. And instead of having like girls and boys, maybe having more clothing that's unisex, that fits maybe both body types, would be better than trying to get rid of the names altogether, because making more clothes unisex, I think, gives more opportunity and less labeling and more unity.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Those are all great points. Thank you for that. I would think that we could do a mixture of both genre and size, and by tailoring, if that makes sense. So we could have like, I'm not sure how to explain it, to be honest. We could have grunge and like different, we could do like color coding. Does that make sense? So we could do like different types of genre as well as colored by size. But I'm not talking like blue and pink, sorry, as splitting the genders. I think we should do like gender neutral colors like yellow, purple, green, and things like that. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Is that okay? Does anyone else want to have any say on it, or can I move on? Lisa?
I was just going to say, is this something you might want to set up a specific task and finish group for, to discuss how you might want to work on this campaign, if that's what you decide to do?
Yeah, I would be more than happy to do that. Take it on as a campaign. I would love to just make sure everyone's comfortable with this first. Okay.
Perhaps go to a vote for it once everyone's finished speaking. Possibly ask someone.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Alfie?
Thank you. Yeah. I totally agree with a lot of what Eva said about having more gender neutral clothing in general, and I think that could work really well with things like jumpers and coats, when they tend to be kind of loose fit anyway. But I think for things like shirts and tailoring, that could be a little bit difficult. I think you'd at least have to have different fits for it, because otherwise people might just end up always wearing stuff that's kind of baggy and doesn't really look that flattering on them. That's just something I'd suggest, but I agree with a lot of it overall.
Okay, thank you, Alfie. So back to what Lisa said, did we want to take this through to a campaign? So put a tick if it's a yes and a cross if it's a no in the chat.
I'll relaunch the poll so you can vote that way again if that's easier. It stays on the
Yes,
screen for a bit longer.
That's fine, Lisa, thank you. Yes, everyone said yes. So Lisa, how would you think we should do this as a campaign?
If anyone wants to let me know if they'd like to be part of the specific working group for this or task and finish group, then let me know and we can set that up offline.
Okay, thank you. So moving on. Does anyone have any last questions before we move on? No, okay. To consider methods on how to provide more music opportunities for the youth. So that was Saul's project. So Saul, over to you.
So as we all know, kids in Stratford over around 10 don't really have anything to do. Kids under 10 have little parks scattered around estates, but that's about it. And people with music abilities don't really have much to do either. Music and playing an instrument for someone is really good in many ways, especially especially emotionally. It helps massively if you're sad. If you can't express any feeling, you just go and play on your instrument, and that's how you express your emotions. I thought about bringing this up because music stalls around Stratford are also suffering over COVID. Many shops are, and I wanted to bring it up to help create something to make music grow in Stratford, and especially for the younger kids.
Well said, Saul. That was really good. I think that's a really good idea. Does anyone else have any questions of how we should do this? Izzy?
So one of my suggestions would be for, whilst we're still in lockdown in the current situation where we can't necessarily meet up in person to make music, we could have a look at doing online concerts or communicating with other music groups, any music teachers, sharing information about that, and just generally doing what we can whilst we're in the circumstances we are to keep people having things to work towards if they need to helping with mental health and just things like that, because I agree with Saul, music has a really positive benefit on mental health, not just playing it but listening to it. So I think we could maybe have a look at setting up some sort of online concert or maybe an online music competition or something like that. Could definitely be a project that we could work on.
Well, I had an idea of so there's these things over lockdown that happened with singing, like choirs used to record them. Each singer would record themselves, and then they would send them to the main person, and then they would put them all together, and it would just be like the choir as it was. And I thought maybe to boost something, we could have different. We could choose a piece of music, including many instruments, and we could put it online and see if people started sending posts of them recording that piece, and we could bring it all together.
So I've got a question for you. Do you know anyone who does these, like, do you know anyone who can like teach this, or is there like a specific app that the children could use?
I don't really know any specific teachers or anything. I know there are some apps that you have to pay for, and most of the time they're not very good. But yeah, that was it. The apps aren't really helpful, really.
Izzy and then Lisa.
So in terms of kind of piecing together a piece of music, which different people could send in their submissions to be added towards, I've done some similar things in terms of school, obviously not running them myself, I'm not not quite capable of that, but it's something we could look at doing if we're looking for someone to run it, would either maybe be communicating with any like anybody who has music teachers or anything like that, who, or any, also the other thing we could do is if there's any A-level students or people working on degrees or something that want a project to work towards, it could be something, it could be a good thing to say that they've done and helped with if they want to compose, or words going blank in my mind, but just piece it all together, because that is definitely a skill that is helpful. So we could always have a look if there is anybody that would be willing, or anybody knows who's working on it that's looking for a project, we could see about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, Lisa, sorry.
Sorry, no, it's fine. I was just going to, similar to Izzy actually, I was going to say is, does anyone know anybody or anyone here have those kind of skills to put that kind of thing together? Because say if we promoted it on social media, I'm more than happy to use the town council email address to get those submissions in, but I certainly wouldn't be able to edit it together. So that's something that you'd have to think about.
Jill?
Okay. It might be something, obviously we've discussed it previously, and you might want to consider it when we go to the next topic on speakers. But Claire Thomas, who does Stratford Music Centre that Saul and Danny go to, she's doing a lot of work with youth. So it might be something that she might be able to do, or have contacts, because she's got quite a lot of different contacts in the music industry now. But it might be something that if you decide to on the speaker, that she might be worth being the next person you bring in, which obviously you can discuss in the next agenda item. But yeah, someone like that who works with youth and is trying to promote music in Stratford might be worth talking to, and she'll have those connections, as I said.
Thanks, Jill. I don't have any more questions. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay. Moving on. Do we want to go through with this as a campaign, as we were discussing earlier? So Lisa, if you would like, Councillor Phillip.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I may have some contacts actually, so let me go away and dig those up for you. I'll speak to Jill about that as well. I think it's a great idea to bring people together and do sort of a stitched video. It would be quite good to sort of tie it to a campaign. So if you wanted to, if you're campaigning for more opportunities for people to play and learn music, in young people in the town, to sort of stitch that message into it and then use that, because that's going to get a lot of attention, and a well sort of produced video is going to do very, very well on social media and things. So I think it's just a good idea to attach it to a wider campaign.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. So Lisa, did you want to put the poll up so we can vote? Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. It should be there now.
Yeah, everyone's voted yes so far.
That's great.
It's great. Okay, so before we move on, did anyone else want to ask any last minute questions before we move on? No. Okay. To agree with topic speakers for next youth council meeting. So Jill, Councillor Jill, do you mind talking me through what that means?
Yeah, so do you want, as we've had Daniel today and we had Elizabeth Dixon last week, or the last meeting on the accessibility, do you want somebody at our next meeting to come and talk to you? So someone like we said, Claire Thomas, potentially about music, or someone like that. So what you're interested in for your next topics?
Okay. Ollie.
Yeah, so I can't remember his name, but Jill, didn't you have someone in mind about coming in to talk about like racism issues and their experiences? I think that'd be a really good topic to focus on, and for him to come in and speak on one of the meetings, I think would be really good. Yeah.
Jill?
Yeah, sorry. Alfie's just put it into the chat. Yeah, his name's Leo, and he is happy to speak. I have spoken to him to see if at any point he would. So the question is, do you want that next, or as music is on the agenda, do you want to look at that? Although Leo himself is very musical as well, so he would work out as well. So it would be one of those. So it depends what to focus, but he would be happy to come and talk about obviously issues that are surrounding racism as well as music. So can look at both.
So
I think we should get in someone from the Stratford Music Network, like Claire, to come in and talk about the situation and how we can do stuff to boost the music.
yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So does anyone have any questions? Alfie?
Yeah, so I might suggest if we were to invite Leo to our next meeting, because that's kind of we've been talking about that for a while, and then I think it'd be great to talk to, is it Claire or Mike, I think, from Stratford Music Network. But I think perhaps it might be better for those who are interested to arrange a separate meeting for them where you can then just talk about that and then feed that back to the whole council. But I don't know if anyone else has any other opinions on that.
Izzy?
I think I agree with Alfie. I think that talking about race is a very important thing for us to discuss, and I think from the moments I've seen from previous meetings, it has come up several times. I think it would be really important to have him come in, and then we can see about doing the music either some other time or in the next meeting or something.
Jill, do you think that's something you could do?
Yeah, I mean, they're both, I think it's both important topics. It might give you an option or a chance for the music one to come up with some ideas as well. So maybe have Leo, if he's available. Maybe we'll see if they're available. If Leo's not available for the next one, we bring Claire in. And if Leo is, then maybe as Izzy just said, we could do Claire for the next meeting.
Okay, great.
Do you want to take a vote on that?
Yeah. Do you want to take a vote?
I was going to, yep. Great, I think that's everyone.
Great, that's everyone. Yes, thank you. So we will sort that out for next meeting, which is going to be on 5 p.m. on March 4th. Is that okay for everybody?
Okay. You want to sign off, then I'll stop the stream.
That's fine off. So thank you.